Hey guys, so here we have Odi Bakchis. I'm a huge fan of yours, Odi.
Thanks.
And last year you ended up third overall. You won Irwindale and you won Long Beach, correct?
And Atlanta.
And Atlanta, so 3 rounds.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love your driving style. You're very consistent and you don't maximize full risk, but you have that consistency that's unbeatable. I love to see it and I admire you very much.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'd like to work on the consistency even more. Everyone's on it so much that you got to be super consistent. So winning 3 rounds gets you, if you're lucky, top 3 in the overall series. So that's how insane it is, and that's how consistent all the top guys are. So yeah, consistency is key in FD for sure.
That's incredible. All right. So for a new driver that has dreams of being in your shoes, what would you recommend? Entrepreneurship? Chasing sponsors? Driving hard?
No, I think at the very beginning, before all of that happens, you have to just be really disciplined and realistic with how much time you can spend behind the wheel. Be real with yourself with what kind of car you can practice with. Don't chase building a badass car because it's expensive and you're just going to get burnt out building it before you even drive it. So drive something that's really turnkey, really simple, really affordable. Be honest with yourself. What is it that you can afford? And just go from there. Don't get too daisy-eyed over the end goal of being pro or having sponsors. Just focus on having fun and maximizing your seat time with a car that gives you the best bang for the buck. And then if things go well, if you start driving well, things will just start clicking together if you stay disciplined and stay on it and just keep driving as much as you can.
That's great advice. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So when you started, were you good friends with Riley Cahill? Is it true that he helped you out in the beginning?
Yeah, Riley happened to work at Adams Motorsports Park, and that's where I started drifting. That's where I learned. I went there every single week, scrounge up money for the $20 a session fee or whatever they had, and for tires. Luckily, my car was so underpowered that tires lasted the whole night, basically. So once again, just do something that's affordable and sustainable. But yeah, Riley's been, man, he was such a nice dude. He still is, but he actually, after all this, many years down the road, I recruited him to sub in for my crew while one of my crew couldn't make it. So it was nice to catch up with him. And guys like that are very influential in someone that's starting out with anything that they don't have a lot of experience with. Look for people like I did for Riley that is better than you and is a good, humble person to be around, and be open-minded, always learn from people. So Riley was that person to me, and many others like Riley. So do the same, find people that are doing well, that have, good ethics, and are very disciplined and driven, and just see what they do. We all learn from others. Sometimes it's very costly to make mistakes ourselves, so we can learn from other people's mistakes as well.
All right, my last question. You're doing incredible in drifting, but if you could change one thing about your driving or your program, what would it be?
There's a lot of things I would change about my driving. I mean, I think I'm doing well, but once you get really good, you start become very critical about yourself. Consistency is something I'd want to work on even more. I mean, from the surface, it looks like all the top guys are consistent, but realistically, that's what bites us without winning every single battle. So consistency, I guess, is a top, thing that I'd want to work on more, and I am working on it. Other than that, I mean, there's so many little details about driving, but biggest thing, if I could go back, is like I said earlier, learn from more people. Learn from as many people as you can. Don't be closed off. Like, really, don't be shy to just, don't be annoying and walk up and say a very open blanket statement. How do I become a pro drifter? That, you'll never get a straight answer if you ask such a vague question. Chip away and work at one thing at a time, and surround yourself with good people that are also motivated and disciplined and that are doing better than you, and that's how you're gonna get up there.
Thank you, Odi, for your time.
Cool, I'm gonna get back to driving. Thank you.
Cool. Is there any way I could get a lap with you later? I brought my
we could try. I got one of my crew guys that wants to jump in the car.
I brought my car. I want to run a tandem with you if possible.
Sick. Yeah,
I would
for
love
sure.
to. I told my viewers that's like what I came out to do. It would be a dream come true.
Sick.
To run a lap with you.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Cool.
See you there.
Later.
Later.
Better with or without glasses?
Whatever you want. All right, guys. So here we have Rome Charpentier. He is a Pro 1 driver in Formula Drift. And it's a pleasure to meet you, Rome.
Oh, thank you guys. So what would you like to chat about?
All right. So how about you tell me your favorite thing about drifting?
So I like the fact that you're controlling an out-of-control vehicle. That's probably the coolest thing to me. Think back to any time you've ever drove a car and the car kind of slid a little bit, whether it was in the rain or the snow or the ice. For me, that was always the most memorable time in a vehicle. So that's really what kind of connects me to all this, is I get to spend the entire time that I'm driving the car sideways at that slip angle, and it's just a ton of fun.
All right, who is your favorite driver in the world?
Ooh, do I have to know them or not know them?
You don't have to know them.
I'd probably say James. James is the one I would probably look up to the most, but right there next to it is Odi as well, so Odi Bakchis.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 35.
All right, so what do you wish you knew 10 years ago when you're 25?
About drifting. So I didn't really know what drifting was till I was 30. So it's kind of been a new ride for me. I used to be a stunt rider, so we do street bike stunts for shows and events. And I would do stunt shows for drift events. And that's kind of what got me started in this. We went out to Japan, did a show in Japan, and I just kind of fell in love with the drifting scene. Came back, started building a drift car, and 5 years later, here we are.
So how'd you make it in such a short amount of time?
Mindset and level of commitment. So failure was not an option. I was all in no matter what, and I knew that I could do it because other people were able to do it. So I just looked forward and was like, okay, how do I got to get there? What do I need to do? And I realized that the biggest key kind of in anything you're trying to do in life is, for us in driving, is seat time. So it's basically being involved in that sport as much as possible. So I worked on a Formula Drift team as a helper, then kind of like a crew chief. So I started learning the behind the scenes as I was driving, and I literally just drove as much as I could. And a statement that really stuck with me is I asked Chelsea DeNopo when I was in Pro-Am, like, hey, how do I get into Pro 2? He's like, drive 50 days a year. Now that was a quantum leap for me because I only drove about 4 to 5 days total a year. Maybe 6 days a year. The year before, I think that was 17. So to go from, let's say 10, we'll be generous. Let's say from 10 days to 50 days was insane. But I ended up doing that. We drove 50 days, or we didn't drive 50 days that year, that's a lie. We drove 78 days that year, and I ended up getting 2 Pro 2 licenses, one in Top Drift and one in Drift League, which got me into Pro 2.
So do you have any tips for someone to handle the financial aspect as far as moving into Pro 2? Because Pro-Am can be affordable for anyone with a good job, but Pro 2, what do you recommend?
It's the same thing. I actually spent more money in Pro-Am than I did in Pro 2.
Okay.
So that's kind of a backwards way of thinking of it.
Interesting.
So you can spend as much or as little as you honestly want. It just comes down to how you budget your team, how you set it up, and build a car that's already ready to go. If you're working on your car, if you have to do stuff throughout the season, it makes it stressful for you and your team. So show up with a car ready to go, then you can kind of check that off your list. Now all you have is travel costs.
All right, sounds good. So I hope we, like we were saying earlier, I hope we get to drive together a lot more because I would love to train with you. So hopefully I'll see you more on this YouTube channel, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Rome.
Absolutely, you guys have a good one. Thank you.
Wishing you the best this season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you guys soon.